over the year, we started this ministry, going 3 years ago. God is so amazing. And then we started doing all these presentations early last year. So God is amazing. We have celebrated a year over the year of doing these presentations. And every Tuesday night, we have never missed a Tuesday night. And God has been so amazing in how he's always provided willing speakers and presenters. And that's exactly what we do. When you're trained as medical missionaries, you don't keep the information to yourself. We go out and we share with others, because that is why we have been trained, and God has called us to serve him in every aspect and in every way that we can. So now that we're live, I'm just going to drop the link in the chat, just in case you want to share the link with someone else, you can. So the link is going in the chat, and then Sister JB, you can go ahead with the prayer. Let me just drop this in. Go ahead, my sister, with the prayer.
All right. Okay, I'm now on mute. Okay, everyone, let us pray. Father God, we give you thanks and praise for being our Father, for carrying us safely through the day. You took us out to work and run errands and do so much. And you protected us and brought us back home in safety. We thank you for your outstretched arms over us as our keeper, our guard, our guide, and our stay. Thank you for this evening. Thank you for Sister Angela. Thank you for the one that will be doing the presentation. Thank you for everyone that are here on this Zoom call and all those that will be on the YouTube page and those that are still rushing home to be on Zoom. Into your hands, I place each and every one of us. And as we come, Lord Jesus, to hear from your servants, I pray, oh Father, that you will open our minds and help us to be receptive and help us to learn how to be better prepare our bodies for heaven. Give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as we tune in this evening, Lord. And help us that as we learn, we will so share with others. As we learn, help us to share with others and to take heed unto our soul salvation. We thank you for this platform and we thank you for everyone that is involved. May you bless, may you sanctify us through your word, because your word is truth. Hear and answer my prayer as I place us all in your hands now. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for your prayer, my sister. And as usual, so our presenter tonight, let me share a little bit about our presenter for tonight. And after the presenter, we're going to be having our theme song. And you guys know the questions I'm going to ask you, right? So please don't let me beg. I don't like begging. So you know the questions I'm going to be asking. And I'm going to give you the heads up before I play the theme song. I'm going to be asking you, what is disease? And what three things must we do once we have identified a disease? Okay, so be prepared, because if nobody volunteers, I'm going to call your name. That's just natural, because I like doing that, all right? So let me share a little bit about our presenter tonight and how I came to know her. It's because of YouTube. And also, I spoke with someone as well who recommended that I speak with her. So her name is Danna Gesellchen, and she was born in Georgia, over there in the US. Born in Georgia, raised in Alabama. Now she's a Seventh-day Adventist, of course, She did her medical missionary training in Uchi Pines, and we all know of Uchi Pines Institute, where people go. It's like a wellness center, and people go there for natural healing and for health care, where the laws of health are used, as well as healthy lifestyle changes to help people to become better. So she studied there. She also taught there at Uchi Pines as well. So she's coming to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience concerning health. She's in ministry with her husband, and they both have, the name of their ministry is Closure for Jesus Ministry. That is the name of the ministry. And may I remind us this evening that the medical missionary work is the closing work. It is what the right arm of the gospel, it will open hearts and minds. What does the right hand do? It opens the door for the body to enter. And that's exactly what the medical missionary work does. And so the name of their ministry, Closure for Jesus, is so rightly named because they're helping to close this work, to usher in the coming of Jesus Christ. And so that is what they do. She does a lot of presentations. She speaks on Zoom as well as online and in-person presentation. Both her and her husband, I've seen many of their presentations in person, what they've done in person as well as on Zoom. So we welcome you tonight, Sister Dana. I'm not sure if your husband is with you, but if Callan is on as well, then we also welcome you. I'm going to play our theme song, then I'm going to be asking the questions. And after that, I'll shut up. I will decrease and let our presenter increase tonight, because we're going to set her loose in the name of Jesus. So let me play our theme song, and you guys know the drill, okay? You guys are not going to let me beg you tonight. I'm just confident of that. And I'm leaving this on a little bit longer so that everybody has the opportunity to see. And so therefore, anybody should be able to respond and answer the questions. You can take a screenshot. My questions are, what is disease? And in case of disease, what 3 things must we do? Okay. All right, all right. I'm not seeing any hands going up. Any takers? If not, I'm going to volunteer somebody. Did I see any hands going up to answer my questions for tonight? Come on, guys. We do this every Tuesday night. So by now, you guys should have known the drill and you should be ready and prepared. All right, so let me see who I can volunteer to answer the questions. You got to be kidding me. Oh, you guys did not hear the audio? You mean all this time? Well, but at least you son, you guys are used to the song by now, right? And you're hearing me, so you're hearing the question. And we do this, I'm so sorry about that. We do this every Tuesday evening. I didn't realize you were not hearing the sounds, but you know what? I'm going to play it again. I know time is going, but I'll play it again for the benefit of those who are joining us for the first time. And I should see the hands going up to answer the questions. It's a very short song, so let me play it again and for you guys to be able to respond to the questions. Okay, so this time I'll make sure that you guys are hearing the sound. So sorry about that. Are you guys hearing now? Just give me a yes in the chat.
Disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from violation of the laws of health. Step one to overcoming is to ascertain the cause where we have violated God's laws, the laws of health. Step two to overcoming is to change unhelpful conditions and to give God full submission to the laws of health. Step three to overcoming is to have wrong habits corrected, God's character fully reflected by the laws of health. Then nature is to be assisted by expelling its impurities, reestablishing the right conditions that aid the laws of health. In the body, the laws of health. In the body, the laws of health.
All right. Thank you guys for your patience. Now that you've heard the song, what is disease? Based on the song that I've just played a while ago. And what must we do once we have identified a disease? Okay, so I'm ready. You guys, let me allow you to unmute yourselves. So who would like to go? You can unmute.
Good night.
Hello. Thank you
How are
for,
you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Sister Magali. How are you doing?
Wonderful, thanks.
Good, go
Okay,
ahead.
so if I remember our definition from the last session that I did with you, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from the violation of the laws of health.
Amen. And what must we do once we have identified a disease? All right, where did she go? Sister Magali, or you want somebody else to help you? So she's giving me the first part. Will
Yes.
somebody, okay, you need help?
I was just allowing somebody else to go.
It's all right, my sister, you go ahead. You're the bright one in the class today, so you go ahead. It's all right. At least you make me not looking too bad. That I did a good job with you guys. So go ahead.
Okay, so what we should do when we realize that there's a disease, we need to change our habits to correct that. You know, do things differently.
But the first, so what is the first thing you want to do? You're having a headache. You want to know why you're having a headache, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So you want to
find out the cause.
there we go. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So we
Identify the
want to
cause, and then you can treat it accordingly.
exactly. So we identify the cause. That's the first thing. Always must ascertain the cause. And then we're going to, as you've said a while ago, we're going to make the changes. So unhealthful conditions must be changed. And we're supposed to correct any wrong habits. And we do this now by implementing the 8 laws of health. Start eating healthy, exercise, rest, water, sunlight, trust in God, all 8 of them. And if we still need some help, then we're going to assist nature in our efforts, because nature, the body was made to heal itself, right? And so the body's always trying, nature is always trying to bring about healing, but we're preventing that. So we're able to now use some herbs as well as the 8 laws of health to bring about healing. Thank you so very much, my sister, for trying. Do appreciate it. Thanks. Have a good night. Sister Dana, over to you, my dear sister. God bless you as you present to us tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do need to share my screen if I could. So there we go. Okay, and I'm going to leave this in this mode instead of presenter mode, so we'll be okay with that. You know, it was interesting, you mentioned earlier that you had never missed a Zoom meeting, a Tuesday night Zoom meeting, and I thought to myself, well, you know, today was almost the first one, because my husband was traveling back from North Dakota today, and boy, did he have an adventure. Twice he was almost going to have to spend the night in Minneapolis and then in Atlanta, but the Lord intervened, and I was actually going to drive to Atlanta and pick him up, but we were able to get him a bus or a van, excuse me, from Atlanta to Columbus, Georgia. So he finally made it home. So I'm thankful to be reunited with my husband again. He had been out of town. So very grateful to be here. I really appreciate the song. That was very nice. And I appreciate the introduction because I do want to seek closure for Jesus. So it's a privilege to be here. I thank you for the invitation. And what I would like to talk with you about tonight is something that's very near and dear to my heart. And I'll share kind of throughout the talks of personal experiences. And if you follow our YouTube channel, which is under my name, Danna Gesellchen. By the way, Angelia did a very good job with my name. Thank you. I have had some significant health challenges, not because of necessarily wrong habits, as much as I got bitten by a tick and got very sick. And then we unknowingly rented a moldy house, and I got deathly ill with mold toxicity. And then I had an accident where my cat scratched me and I ended up with tetanus. So all of this kind of really kind of threw me into some really deep research of how to help my body recover from these things. And that's where a lot of this research came from that I'm going to share with you tonight. And what I want to talk with you about tonight is your liver. The title of this presentation is Love Your Liver, and why you need to love your liver. Everything that you put on your body, everything that you wear, by law, all new clothing sold in department stores today has flame retardants sprayed on them, you know. And so anything that you buy new from a department store or online or whatever, you really need to wash it first, because that stuff is in the clothing. And when you put your clothing on, your skin is going to absorb that. We all know about the absorptive capacity of our skin. So this next picture is very interesting. How many of us at church potlucks, or when we used to eat fast food, would go and we would eat out of these kind of containers? Well, if you put hot food in a styrofoam container, you're basically eating styrofoam, because the chemicals in that styrofoam goes right into that hot food. If you're standing at a gas pump pumping gas and you smell the fumes, That's going into your body, and anything toxic like this that enters your body, your liver has to detoxify that. We're going to talk about the role of the liver in just a minute. Stuff that you put on your body, skincare products, outgassing of building materials, sunscreens, hair shampoo, lotions, toothpaste, all these things. And then there's these plastics that contain something called xenoestrogens. Xeno simply means fake or false. And then estrogen, you know, we know what estrogen is. It's one of our female hormones. We typically think of it as a female hormone, although men do have some estrogen as well, and they need some. But this right here particularly affects men because it drives down their testosterone, drives up their estrogen levels, and we end up with men who begin to develop breasts. I actually have seen men with well-developed breasts, and it's largely because of this toxicity from these xenoestrogens, particularly if you use a microwave oven and you heat food in these plastic containers, you're really not helping yourself at all. Pesticides that are sprayed, you know, in our homes, on our homes. When I first married my husband, he did pest control, and as a newlywed, his boss actually let me ride with him a couple of times. And here with my new husband, I'm watching him spray all this chemical on a house, and he's standing in this cloud of poison. He didn't have a suit on like this. He had a respirator and he had gloves, but that stuff's still getting on him. I wanted to take his liver out and put it on a washboard and wash because I knew that this was not good for him. And then if you've ever eaten fast food that was wrapped in this brown or white paper that has that waxy film on the inside, that waxy film, when that hot food goes on that, the chemical in that waxy film goes right into your food. And then there's cigarette smoke. I could be sitting in my car at a stoplight with my windows up and smell the cigarette smoke of the person in the car next to me. So it's this just loads and loads, 4,000 different chemicals at least in cigarette smoke. And then we mentioned the outgassing of building materials, all this stuff that bombards our livers. And then we have genetically modified foods. Sugar is one of the most toxic substances that we can put in our body. It's horrible. Most sugar that you buy in a grocery store is genetically modified. And then a lot of people like to use these scented candles. If these are petroleum-based candles, you may as well have a car running in your living room if you're burning one of these candles. You know, it's best if you're going to use these to use soy-based or beeswax candles. Better yet, what I like to do is use a diffuser and a good quality essential oil. So when we think about all these things, we can kind of feel like this one lone soldier with a little sword against this army that's coming at us to destroy us. And that's a very valid analogy, because that's really kind of how our liver must feel, you know, if a liver could have feelings. And so I believe we need to love our livers, and we'll talk more about why I have a picture of a lemon there later on in the talk. So if you want to know that, just stay tuned. But we're taught in the book Healthful Living, page 15, that we are to study this marvelous organism. I appreciate the emphasis on study and learning what is causing disease. What do I need to do to recover? So we're to study this human system and the laws by which it is governed, because we do live under law, health law, okay? The liver is located in the upper right-hand part of the abdominal cavity. So if you think about the lower part of your right rib cage, that's what we're talking about. Under the diaphragm, kind of on top of the stomach as it comes to midline, the right kidney and the intestines. The liver is dark reddish brown, kind of triangle shaped, and it weighs roughly 3 pounds. Of course, in a larger person, it's going to weigh more or less than a petite person like myself. And here is kind of just a diagram of how everything sort of course, this is not anatomically exact, but it will give you an idea. And you can see the liver. It's basically divided into 2 lobes. Some people will argue that there's 3 lobes, but I'm not going to die on that hill. So at any rate, you can see the ducts how it hooks to the gallbladder. That pear-shaped organ there is the gallbladder. I want you to note that picture, because in the next picture, I think it's the next slide, is going to show something very interesting that I want to point out. So you can just sort of get a picture in your head of how everything hooks up and how the bile actually unloads into the small bowel. Now, the bile, we're going to talk about that a fair amount tonight. That is one of the ways that the liver gets rid of toxins. Most people think of bile as just what emulsifies our fats. And that's true. That is one of the roles of bile, but it's not the only role. So in this picture, we can see again, and I want to point out the stones here that are within the gallbladder, and you can see how the gallbladder is sort of weighed down and tilts downward with the weight of these stones, as opposed to its normal position. Now, when you do a liver flush, which I have a whole series on the liver on our YouTube channel, which again is under my name, about how to do this liver flush. And so it takes a while when you do this to actually get those stones up and out of the gallbladder, and all the while you're having stones migrate into the gallbladder from the liver. So this is not just a one-time liver flush fix it kind of thing here. So anyway, the liver gets about 25% of the blood from every single heartbeat. So that should give us an idea of just how important and vital this organ is. There's three main functions of the liver, and this is very much oversimplified, but those three functions basically are: it acts as a storage plant, it acts as a processing plant, and it acts as a manufacturing plant. We're going to unpack that just a little bit, not too much. The liver holds about 1 pint or 13% of our body's blood supply at any moment. So it's a very vascular organ. It's made up, here I mentioned this already, the lobes. And even, this is a very important point, even if 75 to 80% of your liver is damaged and even non-functioning, you may have no symptoms. So just because you feel like your liver is okay, doesn't mean it is. So we really need to look at this very delicate organ. I am very grateful that the Lord designed the liver so that it will regrow. In fact, you've heard of somebody that may have had a liver transplant. It's not like they take the whole liver out of somebody and slap it in another person's body. It's actually just a part of the liver that they put in there, and then that grows. It actually will regrow. So I praise God for that capacity. There's two distinct sources of that supply blood to the liver, which makes it unique among our body organs. It's the only organ that has two distinct blood supplies. Oxygenated blood flows into the liver through the hepatic artery, and nutrient-rich blood flows into the liver from the intestines. And this is how the liver detoxifies what we eat. Any medicines or herbs or whatever, this is how it gets it, is through this, the nutrient-rich blood from the hepatic portal vein here. Okay, let's look at this. This is kind of just a simple diagram of how this blood supply hooks up. You could see here the liver itself is fed through this hepatic artery that's to supply and nourish the liver itself. And then from the hepatic portal vein, you have this coming from the GI tract, this blood that comes here to detoxify and to process and everything. And then the hepatic vein is where the blood leaves the liver. The liver regulates most chemical levels in the blood, and it excretes a product, as we mentioned earlier, called bile. And this also helps to carry waste products away from the liver. The liver sends waste away in two ways. One from bile, well, there's more ways, but basically from the bile and through the kidneys, through the blood, it goes to the kidneys to be eliminated. Since World War II, we have introduced over 89,000 new chemicals into our environment, and we're adding approximately 1,500 new ones every year. So I first created this talk about almost 2 years ago. So you can do the math on that. So if we're not assisting the liver to get rid of these things, then we have to remember that these toxins, most of these environmental toxins, these xenoestrogens, all of the glyphosate, all of these things that our body is dealing with. These are what's called fat soluble. In other words, our body stores these things in fat. So we'll talk about this more later, but if you have someone who's tried and tried and tried and tried to lose weight and they can't, if they've never done a detox, that's probably why, because the body is like, I can't get rid of these fat cells because they're full of poison. And if I get rid of the fat cell, it's going to release the poison and you're going to get really sick. So we have to know what we're doing when we look at detox and support the body properly. Another casualty of these toxins is the mitochondria. These are the little powerhouse, as it were, in our cells that produce our energy. And when they become toxic, they lose their electrical charge and they can no longer produce the energy. And here we're dealing with all this fatigue and brain fog. The brain is very rich in mitochondria. So that's where we get all the brain fog and stuff from, one of the ways. So all of the blood leaving the stomach and intestines passes through the liver, and the liver processes that, breaks it down, balances and creates nutrients, and even creates hormones. So the liver helps to balance our hormones as well. It breaks down drugs, and more than 500, and some estimate over 2,000 different vital functions have been identified that the liver does. And so this makes it easy to understand why the liver is so central to who we are and how we actually function. And here's just a brief list of some of the functions of the liver. We mentioned a couple of these already. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. If anybody wants these slides, I will send them to Sister Angela, and that way she will have them so you can get the slides. So if you don't have to feverishly take screenshots or what have you, I will send this to her hopefully tomorrow. By tomorrow, I'll get this to her. So you can look at all of these different things that the liver does. Again, I'm not going to take the time to go into too much of this. This is an important one right here. It helps to regulate blood clotting. I had a friend who, she had breast cancer and it spread to her liver, and she basically bled out. She bled to death because of this issue right here. So it's very tragic, very stressful to me. When the liver is broken down, harmful substances, again, we mentioned this, the toxins are excreted through the bile or through the blood, and that goes to the kidneys. All right, I want to give kind of this illustration, put this in your mind of a funnel. So if you're going to try to detox your liver, and the liver sends those toxins to the kidneys or to the colon, the small bowel, through the bile, then can you not see that if your kidneys are not functioning well, if your colon is plugged up and you're not having at least 2 bowel movements a day? By the way, the definition of constipation is 1 or less bowel movements every day. So if you're only having 1 bowel movement, you're actually you fall in that category of constipation. A lot of people don't realize that. There was a time in my life when I would go 5, 6, 7 days without having a bowel movement, and I was not well. I was really not well. And anyone who is in that situation is not well. But you can see, if everything downstream, if you consider this would be the bottom part of the funnel, and this is the part where you pour stuff in. I know everybody's used a funnel. And if the bottom is plugged up, whatever you put in the top is just going to overflow because it has nowhere to go. And so if your colon is clogged, if your kidneys are clogged, then how can you detox your liver until you open those things up? So it's very important when we look at detoxing the liver that we talk about drainage. You have to have your drainage pathways open first. And we'll get more into this as we go along. But again, must be having these bowel movements regularly. You must have, your kidneys must be functioning well. And I'll take some questions at the end of this. I know that time is getting away. Basically, the liver detoxification takes place in 3 phases. And this is relatively new science. I think it's only been known for maybe 15 years. Phase 1 is activation. Phase 2 is neutralization, and phase 3 is elimination. And so I want to break this down just a little bit. We'll go into a little bit of detail on each one of these, but not a lot. Again, this is pretty simplified. Phase one is activation. There's a group of chromosomes called cytochrome P, chromosomes, a group of enzymes, I'm sorry, cytochrome P450. These are enzymes in the liver that break down toxins or waste that actually render the toxins more dangerous, up to 100 times more dangerous. And this actually creates free radicals. Why in the world would the body do such a thing? This is a very interesting point. It's because these toxins are fat soluble and they have to be changed into a water soluble format so that the body can eliminate them. So in the process of doing that, they do become more toxic. So you can see, if you don't know what you're doing when you begin to detox, you could really make yourself sick. And that's why we hear of all these people herxing or having the Herxheimer, or the detox reaction where they get so sick. It should never really be that bad. You may not feel well, you know, a little sluggish or nauseous or whatever, but if you get really sick and feel like you've been body slammed when you do a detox, you're not doing it correctly. And there's certain things that the body needs along the way to support that. If you don't know what a free radical is, it's, if you remember from your science how each atom has the ring of electrons that are rotating around and they're balanced. You have one on either side of each ring that's going around. Well, a free radical has lost one of those electrons and he's going around like a wheel on your car that's out of balance. And so an antioxidant will come and it has an extra electron and it can donate that and stabilize that free radical and make it stable once again. Okay, here's phase two. This is called neutralization or conjugation. This is where these toxins are kind of handcuffed and made not quite so dangerous. And a lot of people don't realize that protein, amino acids, are very important for this phase. You know, we think about the cruciferous vegetables and all these things, and those are important. But we also need protein whenever we're going through a detox. This is why I'm very cautious with long water fasts, because I think that people can make themselves very sick if they're not properly supported in that. Phase three, of course, is elimination. This is where the toxins are actually eliminated, whether it's through the urine or even the sweat or the kidneys. Okay, I mentioned that already. This has only been known for about 15 years. So in phase one, we see here the cruciferous vegetables are important. Vitamin C, vitamin E are important. Healthy fats and fat-soluble vitamins, antioxidants. I like nettles tea during a detox because it's very high in vitamin C and also minerals. And I like to take a little bit of Celtic salt during that time because, you know, you're wanting to drink a lot more and keep hydrated and the kidneys flushed and everything. So it's very good to have the minerals there. And then neutralization, you see again the cruciferous vegetables, glutathione, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit more. And then again, the amino acids, and then elimination. You've got to have the water. You've got to keep your electrolyte balance and everything. So this is very important. Cruciferous vegetables contain a substance called indole-3 carbinol. That can actually be purchased as a supplement, which some people have used that are struggling with cancer. But this helps to protect the DNA and the cells against the cancer cells. And this is high in vitamin C and fiber. You can see all that. This is very helpful in all phases of detoxification. Now, I noticed something interesting about these cruciferous vegetables. They're in this family called the Cruciferae family, and this is Latin. That Cruciferae is Latin for cross-bearing. And that's because of the shape of their leaves. They're shaped like a cross. Some is more noticeable than others. This is actually a broccoli flower, but some of the cruciferous vegetables, the petals on the flower are more elongated and it looks even more cross-shaped. And I really, when I was studying these 3 phases of detoxification, and I thought about this, you know, how the toxins become more dangerous. And I was pondering this one day and praying, and this came to my mind, the sanctuary. Because when we think about the removal of sin from our lives, from this world, God takes it through this process. You know, in the initial phase, when Christ was here on earth, he was here in the outer court, and sin became deadly to him. The toxin of sin took his life. It was so deadly. And so it became more dangerous. And then we go into the holy place where sin is handcuffed or covered, you know, until it can be finally in that third phase of detoxification from in a most holy place where it's blotted out. And so I love it when I see God's fingerprint, his signature in our bodies. And so I see the sanctuary service in these three phases of liver detoxification. So maybe somebody else could take that thought and even unpack it more. I just think it's such a beautiful thought. Now, I'm not going to read this entire quote. It will be in the slides if you want to get those a little bit later. But this is a quote by Dr. Anne Louise Gittleman, who is on the cutting edge of detoxification research. And basically what she's saying here is that in our day and age, because of all of the stuff that we're exposed to in our time, we actually would do well to have 3 livers because of the medications, the preservatives. I'll read some of it, the glyphosate, the nano aluminum. We'll talk about nano aluminum here shortly. All these things, we need 3 livers basically to handle all of this stuff. When I was a kid, I never heard of autoimmune disease. You know, cancer was kind of rare. All of these weird things that are happening to people now, autism, never heard of that when I was a kid. There was not an autistic student in my school that I know of. So it's definitely an issue. In Counsels on Health, page 461, I am going to read this statement because I think it's so important for what we're just about to discuss. While appearing to the children of men as the great physician who can heal all their maladies, he, this means Satan, will bring disease and disaster until populous cities are reduced to ruin and desolation. Even now he's at work in accidents and calamities by sea and by land, in great conflagrations, in fierce tornadoes, in terrific hailstorms, in tempests, floods, cyclones, tidal waves, and earthquakes. In every place and in 1,000 forms, Satan is exercising his power. He sweeps away the ripening harvest, and famine and distress follow. He imparts to the air a deadly taint, and thousands perish by the pestilence. These visitations are to become more and more frequent and disastrous. Now, you look around the world today and you draw your own conclusions, okay? It's a grim forecast, even from the scientific perspective. In 2019, Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Klinghardt. I don't agree with his spiritual philosophies, but the man is on the cutting edge of what's happening out there. He said within 8 to 10 years, 100% of us will have some form of dementia. Now that statement was made in 2019, so we're a lot closer to this. And I don't know about you, but I even struggle with brain fog. Of course, I've had tick-borne disease. I've had mold toxicity. I've had tetanus, all these things that I've had to deal with. And so, you know, almost everybody that I talk to today has difficulty remembering things, maybe headaches, maybe a little bit of foggy fuzziness, you know. So this is real. This is something that we really need to deal with. We really need to talk about. Dr. Stephanie Sinev said by the year 2025, 1 in 2 boys born will be on the autism spectrum. ADHD, activity deficit, hyper, whatever it is, that where they're hyper and they can't pay attention. Somebody told me recently that that is also considered part of the autistic spectrum. And so these are very grim statistics. Now I want to talk just a minute here. I just skipped something. So I'm gonna go back up here. You know, when I was a kid growing up, my daddy taught me how to change the oil of my vehicle, and I know how to spin out an oil filter and spin in a clean one. but you cannot spin your liver out and spin in a clean one. You have to take care of the one that you have. Let's look at some of the things that we're facing in our world today. We're looking at pesticide chemicals, glyphosate and Roundup. I'm going to talk about that more in just a minute. Parasites, we're going to talk about parasites. Plastics, we talked a little about that. Heavy metals, what they're spraying up there has what's called nano aluminum. In other words, these aluminum particles are so small, when you breathe, it crosses the blood-brain barrier. And this, I believe, is what's driving a lot of the Alzheimer's, the dementia, the brain issues, the forgetfulness issues that we see today. Electromagnetic pollution. I have an EMS thing that I wear under my clothing when I can hide it. If I can't, I put it in my pocket to help block the electromagnetic pollution. Food preservatives, medications, leaky gut, mold. I'm going to talk a little bit about mold in just a minute. And then also GMOs. These are all, I mean, and this is just an abbreviated list of things that we're dealing with, and these things bioaccumulate. In other words, they don't just pass through the body. The body has to deal with it. And if you're plugged up in your colon, your kidneys, you're not sweating, you're not getting rid of these things. If you can't lose weight, you need to detox. Okay. Now, this is from the website geoengineeringwatch.org. This is a partial list of things that have been proven to be within the chemtrails that are being sprayed. You know, y'all know what chemtrails are, I hope. If you don't, when you look up in the sky and you see that it looks like tic-tac-toe up there, those are not clouds. Those are chemicals that are being sprayed on us without our permission. Okay, and this is just a partial list of what's actually in those things being sprayed on us every day. Okay, well, let's talk about mold just a minute. And that is something that the picture in the background, I'll show you more clearly in just a minute. That's the actual house that we rented after we moved in. We had another leak after we moved in, and so it increased the moisture, and this just exploded. This mold just went nuts, and we found out later that the house had a history of mold issue. Mold toxins tend to clog the liver, the brain, and the heart, because these organs are very fatty organs, and fats are vital to a mold detox. If you're trying to detox from mold, we mentioned that you need the proteins, you need a little bit of fat. Mold causes something called chronic inflammatory response syndrome, which is where you just have this massive inflammation. If you remember, at the height of COVID, a lot of people were talking about one of the things that was killing a lot of people. It was the cytokine storm. Well, people that have this SIRS, this chronic inflammatory response syndrome, they basically live in cytokine storm. And I've been there, and it's excruciatingly painful. You have so much pain, you have no idea, and maybe some of you do. Among the most deadly of the mycotoxins, mold spores produce mycotoxins when they feel threatened. And if you have a Wi-Fi router in your home, that causes those molds to produce more mycotoxins. And some of the most deadly are Stachybotrys, Fusarium, also aflatoxin. The mycotoxin trichothecene is a T2 mycotoxin that is actually used in biological warfare. If you have heard of Gulf War syndrome, this is implicated in Gulf War syndrome. Aflatoxin is one of the ones that I've struggled with quite a bit. It's actually growing in my small bowel. That's what I'm dealing with right now to try to kill that from this house that we lived in. So unless mold is cleared from your body, it will plug up your liver, and it can lead to liver cancer, autoimmunity, which it did with me. I went all the way up to, I didn't quite go into a coma, but I felt sort of brain dead a few times, and then death. So I had multi-system damage. I am dealing with autoimmunity from this, and definitely had major liver issues. So here's a more clear picture of this mold. So if you have mold in your house, don't take it lightly. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about glyphosate. The actual name of glyphosate is N-phosphoenolmethylglycine. That's kind of a big name. We don't need to deal with that. But I wanted to share that because of the word glycine in there. We're going to come back to that. So remember this word glycine. Glyphosate was first patented as a chelator, which means it pulls out minerals. Okay. Anything that's a chelator pulls minerals out of something. Okay. But it's also an antibiotic. It can be used as an antibiotic. It's found in soils, snow, and rainwater worldwide. They've even done tests where the polar bears live on the snow, and they found glyphosate in the snow. It's a leading cause of leaky gut. It just rips holes in your gut. Autism, anencephaly, which is where babies are born with just the brain stem. They have none of the higher functions. The interesting thing here with the effect of glyphosate on the gut is that it does not harm the harmful gut bacteria in the gut. They are resistant to the glyphosate. It only harms the good guys, which is interesting. Among the most contaminated non-organic food sources are lentils and garbanzos. So if you're eating these foods and you're not eating them organic, you are eating glyphosate. If you are using wheat, barley, rye, any of these grains that are not organic, then you are eating glyphosate. 2 weeks before harvest, and my husband's from North Dakota. We're getting ready to go up there soon. We're always there at harvest time. And 2 weeks before they harvest, they spray these fields down with glyphosate, and then they harvest, because it causes all the crops to die at the same time and mature so that they can harvest and increase their yields. So at any rate, I just can't stress enough that you really need to eat organic and not eat things that have this glyphosate on it. Let me just show you this for leaky gut. It's the small bowel that we're talking about when we talk about leaky gut. And basically these things that you see here, whether it's GMO foods, chemicals, drugs, stress, gluten encasing, viruses, bacteria, glyphosate, which is one of the chemicals, these things damage this delicate inner lining of the small bowel, and it causes it to become permeable to things that it should not be. And those things enter into our bloodstream, and that's where we end up getting really, really sick. Here's some symptoms of leaky gut: bloating, gas, cramping, abdominal pain, muscle aches, lack of energy, brain fog, memory issues, allergies, arthritis, and this can lead to autoimmunity. Dr. David Minkoff, he has a wellness center in Florida. I really respect him. He's not of our faith, but the man has helped a lot of people. Of the 1,000 or so people I've tested, 100% of them tested positive for glyphosate. And I'm sure whatever number he has tested now, they're probably all positive for glyphosate. Okay, now here's where we're going to talk about that glycine. Remember, I said, remember this word, and remember earlier I mentioned something called glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant in our body. And it's made of glycine, cysteine, and glutamate. These are amino acids. And glycine is the most basic of all of our amino acids. So you remember that glyphosate has glycine in it. And so here, when glyphosate is present in our body, it tricks the body into using it instead of glycine to fold the proteins in our bodies. And our glutathione levels just tank. Okay, so you can see how this is so sinister. I mean, this stuff has come right straight from the gates of the devil. I failed to mention earlier when I was talking about glyphosate and how it's used as a chelator. Originally, it was used in industrial pipes to take the minerals, because it chelates minerals. It pulled the minerals out. And where that came out of the industrial plants, they noticed that all the plants were dead. And that's when they started thinking, well, we could use this as an herbicide. And so when you eat foods that have been sprayed with glyphosate, glyphosate is still a chelator. So when you eat these non-organic foods, it's chelating the minerals out of your body. It's demineralizing you. This is why so many people are osteoporosis, teeth problems, mineral deficiencies, I mean, this is part of it. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. You can get it in the slides. There's very few things that can remove glyphosate from the body. This is according to Dr. Don Huber, who is one of the world's leading experts on this topic. And two of these things are what I use, fulvic and humic minerals. We carry a very good quality fulvic mineral on our web store. And we use that. I try to remember to use it every day. And then apple cider vinegar, humic minerals, you can get that online. And then kraut juice, sauerkraut juice, which I definitely am not going to use apple cider vinegar. And, you know, it'd be hard to get enough kraut juice, I think, to do this. But the fulvic is for, that's pretty plentiful. And that will help to remove glyphosate from the body as well as the humic. I take both of these. Okay, let's talk a little bit about disorders of the liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, 50% of Americans have it. If you see somebody that has that looks like they call it the beer belly, that person has fatty liver, okay? And then if you have, it doesn't have to be somebody though that's obese, but anybody who is overweight or obese has fatty liver. And that can progress into non-alcoholic steatohepatitis. And this is where you start getting some granular tissue, some scar tissue and stuff build up, basically is what it is. And that can actually progress to cirrhosis, which can progress to cancer. And so it's not a light thing to consider, you know, this non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because it's very dangerous and it's very strongly connected with diabetes type 2. All right, here's a definition of fatty liver: the abnormal accumulation of fat in the liver cells due to factors such as obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, triglycerides. There's often no symptoms, but the person may experience some fatigue, weakness, some weight loss. It can lead again to fibrosis and cirrhosis, and eventually even death. Here's some pictures. This is a normal liver. Here's a fatty liver. And here we're progressing to NASH, where you're starting to get, and also this is, I would think this was getting a little bit of cirrhosis. And then here's actual cirrhosis, where you can see the liver is much more shrunken. It's so tough and fibrous that it really can't function properly. So you can see that we go from this to this, and here's some stages: healthy liver, fatty liver, fibrosis, and it just shrinks right on down until you can end up with cancer. So we need to think very seriously on what causes that. Sugar in the diet, especially high fructose corn syrup found in soda pops and sugary drinks and stuff. High complex carbohydrate diet. This is processed carbohydrate, you know, your donuts, your pastries, your cookies, your pies, your cakes. A high fat diet, the use of vegetable oils and animal fats. These are very harmful to the liver, especially things like Crisco and I can't think of some of the names of vegetable oils. It's been so long since I've used them, but they're very harmful. The inflammatory diet, processed foods, sugar, fat, especially the vegetable oils, the sedentary lifestyle, the pesticides and toxins, and then visceral fat. What is visceral fat? You can see here on the right, you have a little bit of fibrous fatty tissue here on the heart, but then this visceral fat is this deep fat. It's not the pinch the inch kind that you have a little bit of a donut around your middle. What this is it's fat that surrounds an organ. It's deep abdominal fat. And we'll talk about why this is so dangerous in just a little bit, because that fat tissue itself acts like its own organ. It's producing hormones. It's storing excess fat around the organs. It increases the production of pro-inflammatory chemicals called pro-inflammatory cytokines. And this leads to inflammation, to hormone imbalance, to appetite issues, and all kind of stuff. So you can see this fat is metabolically active, and some people call this angry fat. And this is very dangerous when you have this. Here's some symptoms of liver problems. And again, remember what I said early on in the talk, that 75 to 80% of your liver can be damaged and basically not functioning properly. And you really don't know, you may just feel a little fatigue or a little bloating or whatever, and you just have no idea. So brain fog, confusion, skin disorders, anybody that comes to me and says, I have psoriasis, I have eczema, I have acne, whatever, I always look at the liver. I always talk to them about the liver. Fatigue is a big one. Foul breath odor. I have actually worked with people whose breath smelled like stool because they were so toxic and so backed up. Dark circles under the eyes, abdominal pain, gas, and bloating. I'm going to pick it up a little bit because I have quite a bit left to share and the time's getting away from me. So here's some things that you can do to care for your liver: pure water, reducing your stress, bitters. We don't like bitter food, but bitter greens like arugula, things like radishes, endive, bitter herbs like dandelion. Dandelion tea is excellent because when we taste bitter in the mouth, it causes the liver to increase bile production and flow. It helps to thin that bile out so it's not so sludgy and thick. That's where these gallstones come from, is this thick, sludgy bile that actually turns to stones in the gallbladder and even in the liver. A good minerals, it helps with this. Here's the herbs: the dandelion, milk thistle, gentian, burdock. These are all excellent liver herbs, and there's more liver herbs that are helpful. We need healthy fats. What are healthy fats? Avocado, a little bit of coconut oil. I like a little bit of olive oil. I'm not personally a proponent of the oil-free diet. I don't feel like that's entirely healthy, but I do think that we should use it in great moderation. A diet low in refined carbohydrates and eliminate parasites. We're going to talk about that more in just a minute. Complex carbohydrates and healthy proteins, probiotics. Get the meat and the dairy out of your diet. Sunlight, don't eat anything processed. I put rosemary crackers here because I bought this box of crackers once and I looked at the ingredients and I thought, wow, that's pretty clean. I mean, I'm pretty picky, and at the bottom, the last ingredient was rosemary extract. And I thought, well, rosemary is good for me. I like that. Well, then I went and looked up rosemary extract, and it's used as a preservative in the crackers. And anything that's a preservative, it's to prevent the growth of bacteria and mold and stuff like that. So it's going to act like an antibiotic in your gut. So this is harmful to the gut, these things. So the intermittent fasting, which is basically 2 meals a day, that helps. If you fast, say skip a meal or fast a day or whatever, and you get real jittery, that's typically because the liver is clogged. Okay, here's some more healthy fats. Who knows what that plant is in the background? Does anybody recognize that? For sake of time, I'm not going to give you time to answer. That's actually called purslane. And that is very high in omega-3 fatty acids. That if you have that growing in your garden, which I know you don't right now because it's cold up there. But anyway, this is a very healthy wild edible. So here's again the list of some healthy fats that you might want to look at. Okay, I'm going to skip that for now. All right, bile flow and binding. What do I mean by binding? I mean, if you do something to increase your bile flow, let's say you drink some dandelion tea, that's going to increase your bile flow and you may increase the elimination of your toxins. It's a good idea to come maybe a half hour after you drink that dandelion tea and take a little bit of activated charcoal, a little bit of humic or fulvic minerals, a little bit of maybe some zeolite or bentonite clay or petric, what am I trying to say? The citrus pectin, something like that, to help to bind those toxins that are released in that bile. Okay, we can increase our bile again by bitters and also cruciferous vegetables. I like to take a little bit of organic sunflower lecithin every day because that contains something called phosphatidylcholine, which helps our body to make the bile acids that we need. It's very, very helpful. Okay, there's just some other things. And again, I'm gonna share these slides. So if you want these, You can get them from Angela a little later. Now, I want to warn you that the next few slides are graphic. So if you're kind of queasy with creepy crawlies and worms and stuff like that, then you might not want to look at the next, because we're going to talk about parasites. Okay. Parasites can actually completely plug your bile ducts so that your liver cannot, your bile cannot flow. And this happened to me. I won't take the time to go into that, but I tell about it on some of our videos on our channel. But you think if you have this bile duct that's this big and you get a worm stuck in there, it's going to plug it up. So they can plug the bile ducts. They can cause toxicity because they're eliminating their waste inside of you. They're eating your food. They absorb heavy metals into their bodies, and that causes a greater toxic load. And they increase the likelihood of candida and fungal infections, because there's a stacked effect. You have parasites, you have heavy metals, you have candida. So if you know somebody is trying to get rid of candida, have them do a parasite detox. We have a very good parasite detox on our web store. Flukes can live inside the liver, and these can cause parasites can cause all kinds of crazy issues. We have a video on our YouTube channel that's fairly recent called "A Man in Brazil, sick 15 years, did parasite detox and well in 5 weeks." So that was an amazing video. I encourage you to watch that. So this right here is the actual colon from I think he was 3 years old, a child who was not wormed, and he actually had a bowel obstruction from parasites. And this kid lost his colon because of worms. And if he survived, which I don't know the case, I don't know if he did. If he did survive, he's going to wear a colostomy bag the rest of his life, because that looks like a good portion of his colon. So here are some different parasites that humans can deal with. And here is a picture of parasites being surgically removed from someone's intestines. I mean, you can just pull them out by the handful. I've watched videos where they're just, they're just pulling out handfuls of worms. That's totally unnecessary. You know, we need it. When I was a kid, people got wormed all the time. They embed here. This is a tapeworm, and this is on an actual lower GI on somebody. So you can see the tapeworm there. What we use for parasite detox is something in Jamaica, you may know it as shame old lady. It's Mimosa pudica. The Mimosa pudica will kill the adult. It's the seed that you want. The Mimosa pudica seed will kill the adult parasites. It stuns them and then it suffocates them, and nothing gets used to being suffocated, so it always works. So that will take care of the adult parasites, but then as these worms die, they pass a lot of eggs because they want to live, you know. And so the Mimosa pudica will not kill the eggs, but this is what we use to kill the eggs, a combination of, you can add a few other herbs to it. And again, this is part of our parasite detox kit that we have on our store. But I have had tremendous results myself personally, as well as with many clients that I've worked with using this. All right, let's come back around to the lemon. If you will take the juice of a lemon or a tablespoon of lemon juice in a quart of warm water with a pinch of like Celtic salt or pink salt in a quart of warm water every morning, that will help to open everything up. It's like an enema from above. It increases the bile flow. The liver is so wonderful to help to alkalinize the body, to help increase bile flow, to help flush toxins out of the liver. Just a very powerful, powerful thing. And here's a few things that the lemon actually does to help the liver. And you can take a screenshot or get the slides later. I'm not going to slow down on that. But anyway, here's some more things that I think we talked about most of that. Okay, here's again herbs for liver support. The milk thistle, dandelion, ginger, peppermint is actually considered a bitter. So if you drink peppermint tea, that's very good. Oregon grape is a nice bitter. Garlic is good. Burdock, and again, gentian. As our inflammation goes up in our body, our capacity to detoxify goes down. So whatever might drive inflammation, which plugged up liver, parasites, all these things will definitely drive inflammation. You're not going to be able to detox properly. Poor diet's going to drive up your inflammation. Sugar is going to drive up inflammation. Stress, toxins, gut imbalance, leaky gut, hidden viral or bacterial infections in the body, like Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus, these types of things. This is going to drive inflammation and autoimmunity and stuff like that. Hormonal imbalance, even dehydration can lead to inflammation. So this is from volume 2, the testimonies, page 61. I thought this was interesting. Let me put my glasses on. Your systems are in a state of inflammation, prepared to take on disease. So Sister White knew even back then that inflammation was the foundation of all disease. And we can read the rest of that passage later. But at any rate, you know, when we think about detox, a lot of people just want to get her done. They just want to do a fast and hard detox and be done with it. But you'll make yourself very sick if you try to do that. And, you know, if you think about the story of the tortoise and the hare, who won? Who theoretically should have won was the rabbit, the hare. But the tortoise won because it was just the slow and steady progress that he made that won the race. And many people will tell me I need a pusher. I need somebody to encourage me to do this, somebody to hand me my pills, somebody to, you know, fix my lemon water in the morning, somebody to remind me how to cook healthy for me, whatever. But, you know, this illustration right here is so fitting. You know, in our hearts, we know what we ought to do, but, you know, in our brain, we know what we ought to do. But what our heart, our feelings, our emotions, that they're kind of over here. You know, I know I ought to get up off this couch and go for a walk, but it's so comfortable. And my favorite program's coming on TV, or I'm texting my friend or whatever. You know, we are not our own. We are bought with a price, and we have no right to not take care of these temples that God has given us. He wants us to be healthy. And he invested everything in you and in me. And so I just want to encourage you to consider this, to consider your liver, which is core to our health overall. So I could take a few questions now, and I will send this PDF to Sister Angela later, so that if you want it, you can get the PDF slides from her later.
Thank you so very, very much. Do appreciate the presentation. And
You're
one thing I can agree with you on is the lemon water. I've been doing that for so many years. I don't remember how long. It's just been such a long time. And religiously, I remember I was going over the US. In fact, it was over North Dakota a couple of years ago. It was in
Oh,
December. And I
yeah,
decided,
that's
you know
not a
what,
good
let me
time to
just
go
go
to North
over.
Dakota.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, you know, let's go over for the weekend. And would you believe it? I had my lemons traveling with, just in case I hadn't gotten a chance to go get lemons at the store. But of course, going through customs, they told me,
Yes.
oh, these are not allowed in the country, to tell
Oh,
you. And that was maybe 2012, 13. And I've been
yes.
doing it like long before that. And so to tell you how serious I am when it comes to my lemon, I travel with my lemon. I make sure that I have my lemon water to the point where I'll hide them in my suitcase and take them with me
Amen.
just in case. And so I've been doing lemon water for many years, and it is something that I highly recommend. I know some people would start and they just drop off. Things need to become a habit. For me, it is second nature. The moment I get up in the mornings, I head to the kitchen, I turn on my kettle. Even if I'm going back in bed, I turn on my kettle. And then maybe I'll go in, maybe to lay down again or whatever. But make it a habit. And once, just like brushing your teeth, for example, flossing for me is a habit. If I were to brush my teeth and I were to go in bed and I remember, even if it's midnight, I'm getting out of bed and I must floss. Otherwise, I feel like I'm going crazy. So what I'm saying,
Mm,
make your lemon water a habit. And in that case, when you get up in the morning, you're definitely going to be doing it. All right.
Yes.
So it's now, thank you again. That was such a powerful presentation. And a lot of people don't understand, especially the vegetable oil. I see a lot of women, I have a bad habit, and the bad habit is I look in people's grocery baskets and their trolleys in the supermarkets. And when I see them loading up on these bad foods, the cases of pops and chips and the vegetable oils, and I'm saying, look at that, they're killing themselves. And that is why we're counseled to educate, educate, educate. And that's what we do on a Tuesday night here. We're empowering people, we're educating people. It's up to you now, after you've come and you've learned, it's up to you what you do with that information. And so we have this platform here every Tuesday night. It's free of cost. It's a Zoom that we pay for, but the presentations are free of cost. And we are paying for this platform to keep it open every Tuesday night to provide free information to people. Is it because we are not sensible? Is it because our pockets are burning us and we just want to waste some money? No, it's because we recognize the power in making sure that you guys are well armed, because to be forewarned is to be forearmed. When you have information, you're able to take care of yourselves. Eat healthy throughout. And people tend to say, oh, well, we don't know if it's organic. Last week we had the same conversation. I don't know if it's organic, but that's when I eat in faith, because it says organic. I rather to go by faith because it says organic than choose the bad foods out there because my excuse, I don't know if it's organic. Then we end up getting sick, right? Anyway, guys, you can ask the questions. It's your turn. I'm passionate about this, and so I'll keep going on. And the time is going. So I've now allowed you to unmute yourselves. You can raise your hands, and I'll acknowledge you, and you can go ahead with your questions. I saw my very good friend, Dawn. She's my sister from in Florida. Welcome, my dear sister. It's good to have you, my beloved.
Thank you
Any
so
questions?
much. I'm outside just getting my walk, my steps in Sister Angela, but great program so far.
Amen. So while you're walking, you're listening. Thank you for joining us, my dear friend, my sister. She's more than a friend. She's my sister. Okay, any questions? It's your turn. You can unmute yourselves, but not everybody at the same time. I'll prefer if you raise your hand so that you're acknowledged. Go ahead, Marcia.
My question is in the chat. It's posted in the chat.
All right, thank you for that. Okay, anybody else? Any more questions? I see a lot of comments in the chat. I'll have to run through them. Marcia, while you're on, just go ahead and ask the questions. Your question, please, because it's a lot of comments in the chat. I'll have to be running through. So go ahead, my sister.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks. It was a great presentation. I'd like to know, the presenter spoke about a store that we can get the detox. Where is it? What's the name of it? Website.
I put it in the chat. It's our web store. We are currently out of the parasite detox kits. Usually when I restock it, they're gone. They sell out. But my supplier is sending me a shipment of part of it tomorrow. And we have the Mimosa pudica is imported from India, and that should be back in stock within 2 weeks. So it's very difficult to keep my store stocked because things just, I do these talks and talk about parasites and stuff, and the next day I'm sold out. But that's our store. I put it in the chat, closureforjesus.com. Click on the store tab and it'll take you there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to have Danna coming back again and talk about how to detoxify the liver and the parasites, especially. We want to look at parasite detox. So she and I will discuss a date, and that will be announced later on. Let me address something in the chat. So somebody's asking if they've got stomach issues about the lemon. No,
Okay.
if you have stomach issues, remember, you do not want to be sitting around with a stomach problem because there's help for you. So why hugging up and loving up and decide to live with your acidity in the stomach or whatever stomach issues you're having when you're able to use natural remedies and heal your stomach? So there's no excuse. We've talked about that. I've done that presentation on this land before about healing the stomach. And if you need help, reach out. Get rid of the acid stomach that you're having, get rid of whatever stomach ailments you're having so that your body can be well enough to stomach because you see, even though the lemon, it is acidic, but when it hits the stomach, it's no longer acidic, it becomes
Right.
alkaline.
Right.
Right. So, and that is one of the things that we're hearing, oh, because I have acid reflux or whatever. Once that lemon hits your stomach, it's no longer acidic. Which is why
I'd
it's
like to-
perfect and excellent for, go ahead, Danna.
Yeah, I would like to, I'm so glad this came up because you're correct. The lemon has an alkalinizing effect on the body. It does help to increase stomach acid though, but it has an alkalinizing effect on the body. But here's the thing, a lot of people think I have too much acid in my stomach. Well, actually the problem is we have too little. And let me explain that. Because there's a feedback mechanism between the liver and the stomach. Here's what happens. Most of us have too little bile, or we have very poor bile flow, very thick, very sludgy. And so because the bile, one of the purposes of the bile is to neutralize that stomach acid so that it doesn't burn everything outside of the stomach. The stomach is set up to handle that acid, but the small bowel and the colon are not. And so that acid has to be neutralized. So if you don't have enough bile to help neutralize that acid when it comes down, the body is very intelligent. God created us very intelligently. And so the body is going to lower the amount of stomach acid. And here's what happens. One of the things that happens when that happens, it's the acidity in the stomach that causes the esophageal sphincter at the top of the stomach to close to keep that acid in the stomach. But if we don't have enough stomach acid, it's not signaled to close and it stays partially open and the acid that is in the stomach comes up. But the problem is not too much acid, it's too little. But then our doctors give us proton inhibitors and all this stuff, and we're taking all these Pepsid and the purple pill and all this stuff to help lower our stomach acid when that is only going to make the problem worse, much worse. So the thing to do if you have acid stomach or acid reflux is to increase your bile flow, increase your bile.
Oh, my head.
Amen. Thank you for that. Please, guys, please keep yourselves muted until when it's your turn. Let me just address something in the chat. So Ronald, as you're asking me for the slides, and let me declare, I cannot promise anyone that I'm going to be emailing it to them. I do not have an admin staff. And not having a full-time admin staff to do these emailings, it's rather difficult for me, having a full-time job and a full-time ministry. I'm very, 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 very busy, always planning different events and whatever for the ministry. So that's a promise I cannot make. And so what I'll say, just go back and watch it on YouTube. I'm going to just put the link again in the chat. It's on YouTube. And because it's on YouTube, you're able to watch it again and again and as many, many times as you want. All right. So that's the most I can say. But yes, so I don't make false promises and then you guys are so, I'm not reliable. All right. So yes, thank you for that. And so for those with stomach issues, please seek to heal the stomach. Do not sit around and God has made the body with the amazing ability to heal itself. And he wants us to be healthy. He says what? Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your souls prospereth. Health, we cannot separate spiritual from physical health. They go hand in hand. Heal the stomach. So we're going to go with Ivy Faye, then Beverly, Marcia, and Hyacinth. Those are the hands I'm seeing, so go ahead.
Thank you, Sister Angela. And boy, this was a blessing for you to bring on, Sister Danna. Wonderful presentation, Sister Danna. Thank you so much. I've learned so much from this presentation.
Praise the Lord.
The question of the lemon, it's been addressed. That was in the chat. That was what I'm going to ask about, because I have the same issue. What happened before? I was on some accident I went through a lot. And then they put me on opioid medication, and it eat out my stomach, and 2 holes was in my stomach. And it pew out the content in my stomach within the bloodstream. And I cannot explain to you what happened next. It was terrible. It's only God and his gracious mercy while I'm alive right now. But it was terrible. So when I use the lemon, but constantly use it, I have this reflux, this acid reflux, and that was what I was going to add. So, you know, I don't know what else to do.
Increase your bile flow. Yeah, start drinking dandelion tea. Start, you know, there's a lot that you can do. And I have a playlist on the liver on our YouTube channel, which is under my name. And you can just go and watch that playlist and learn lots and lots more about the liver.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm blessed. Thank you.
Amen. And guys, do not sit with these diseases. You're not made to live in a body that is sick. Get help, get rid of these acid reflux and all these different issues that you have. So for the lemon water, a half a lemon in 16 ounces of water, and then you can have another 16 ounces of warm plain water. So you can start your day with that 32 ounces of water. That's what I do. It works for me. At least I get 32 ounces in right off the bat after 6 in the mornings, and I'm well on my way for my water intake. So you can do that as well. Okay, so Beverly, I think somebody lowered their hand. So Beverly, you go ahead. And then Hyacinth. And then I see Roses of Sharon. Go ahead. Go ahead,
While
Beverly.
we're waiting,
yes, go ahead, Dana.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to mention something about drinking the lemon water, and that is if you have teeth problems, the lemon can affect the enamel on your teeth. So it's good to drink it with a straw. And, you know, like you do, you drink half of your lemon water and then you drink other water behind it. And that's going to rinse it, you know, so be careful, you know, for your enamel.
Yeah.
Hi.
I forgot to add that because that is just a moment, Beverly. That is something I always share when I do the presentation. So I use a straw as well to drink my warm water. And after that, I rinse my mouth twice.
Good. Okay.
And then I have my 16 ounces of warm, just plain water, because the lemon will erode the enamels because of the acid. So always do that. Yes, Beverly, go ahead.
Yes. Great informative presentation. I have a question. What is the process? Do you cleanse your kidney and then your liver and then they do a parasite? What is the order? How you know, what is the order of, you know, the parasite cleanse, the liver and the kidneys? I'd like to know that, please.
Good question. You have to open your drainage pathways first. We talked about that a little bit in the talk, and that is, you want to work on your kidney, make sure that you're drinking plenty of water and the like, but you have to open up your colon. You have to be having 1 to 2 bowel movements minimum every day. Again, 1 bowel movement is really, I mean, that's really the definition of constipation, is having 1 or less. So ideally, making sure that you're having 2 bowel movements a day, because, you know, stuff is, if you've never had a colonic, I had my first colonic January of this year, and I'm not kidding. I thought my brains were coming out my backside. I had no idea there was that much stuff in me. I had no idea. And I do have healthy bowel movements. And so, you know, there's a lot of stuff in there. So you've got to open the colon up. We have a very good colon cleanse product on our store that works very well. The warm water with the lemon in the morning helps a lot. Taking the phosphatidylcholine, the lecithin, a teaspoon or 2 of lecithin every day helps tremendously. So you have to open up the avenues of elimination. Sweating. whatever you have to do to sweat, and so many people tell me I don't sweat. Well, that's not good, but that's one of your avenues of elimination. So that's the first thing, foundational. Open up those avenues of elimination, doing some rebounding on a mini trampoline or dry skin brushing to get the lymph flowing. All these avenues of elimination have to be moving before you start working on the liver. So you can do that. And I personally, I like to do the liver detox before I start doing liver flushes and any kind of heavy hitting liver detox. The reason I like to do the parasite detox first is because of my personal experience, where I was trying to do all these liver flushes and stuff, and my liver actually swelled up so big, you could see it all the way around my rib cage, and I was nauseous, throwing up, and very tender here. So I had acute hepatitis, and I was begging God to tell me what is wrong. I knew if I went to the doctors, they were going to be like, this lady's a little touched in the head, because I knew it was the mold toxicity and this tick disease thing that I was dealing with. And all my labs were normal. And so they thought I was a hypochondriac or something. Well, I wasn't. And so what happened was the Lord kept bringing parasites to my mind. And I was like, well, I did a parasite detox, but it kept coming the more I prayed. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. So I really hit the parasite detox hard. I felt lousy for 2 days. And on the third day, we're all grown-ups here, I passed a big wad of mucus that was full of worms. And I felt it a little bit better. And then over the next 2 weeks, I was passing these parasites and my liver went down. So I believe that I was one of those that had parasites plugging up my bile ducts so that my liver could not drain. So personally, before I do any kind of liver flushing, liver detox, I'm going to hit the parasite detox. So once I get the avenues of elimination open, I'm going to move to parasite detox, and then we can take it from there. So I hope that helps.
Thank you for that. Okay, let me see. And so, yes, as mentioned before, we can definitely look at parasite removal next time. So Hyacinth, Rose of Sharon, and then Marcy Jackson, in that order. Go ahead. Oh, I do have some questions on YouTube. So I'll take, because I keep forgetting YouTube. So yes, go ahead, and then I'll jump over to YouTube.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Dana, very great presentation tonight. My question is, if I have what we consider as fatty stool, does it say that I have a liver problem?
What do you mean by a spotty stool? I've never heard that.
If my stool sticks to
a fatty stool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a problem with your bile flow. You need to work on your bile flow. Everybody needs to work on their bile flow. I would start taking get you some good organic sunflower lecithin. And I would take a teaspoon of that probably twice a day. About take it on an empty stomach. And then after you take that, you can drink a little water with it. About 30 or 45 minutes later, take a little bit of activated charcoal, a teaspoon or something like that, in a glass of water. Now, the lecithin is going to push toxins through the liver. It's going to help increase that bile flow. And then you're going to have some toxin release. So the charcoal is going to help to mop that up. So I would do that. And, all the other suggestions that we had, the herbs to increase bile flow, like the dandelion, you could just get you some dandelion root and make a tea. We have I'm out right now, but I have a good liver supporting blend on our web store. And, that's what I would do. It's just those things.
Can I ask, does milk thistle help?
Milk thistle will help a little bit to increase the bile flow, but milk thistle is more supportive and healing and nourishing to the liver. So it will help some with the bile flow, but it's more of a soother to the liver and a nourisher. So it's a good idea. I like to mix dandelion and milk thistle together and take, because then you get both effects.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And lest I forget again, remember that we're having our Daniel's Diet Health Challenge starting on Sunday coming for persons who are interested in, if you want to lose weight, be more healthy, flush out toxins, make a start to eating healthier, change maybe from a meat diet to a plant-based diet. If you want to work on your high blood sugar level, your high cholesterol, obesity numbers, even learning to prepare delicious plant-based meals, or even experience a spiritual transformation, you can join us on our challenge coming up. Let me see any questions on YouTube. But how can I access the detox? I'm from Trinidad. Okay. I'll drop that in the chat. You can go to her store.
Okay, let me
Would you
just
recommend
address that.
for?
Let
Yes.
me my store is not set up to ship internationally. But if you have a group of people that wants to order to a nation, then I will do that, but you can't order through the store. You have to contact me through our webpage, because the store will not let anybody order internationally. It's not set up that way, and I don't know how to change it. So.
Okay. A question from YouTube. What would you recommend in detoxing a 3-year-old? My thing is, I'm not even sure why a 3-year-old child needs detoxing, but Dana, what's your take on that?
My take is that newborn babies, they've done tests on the cord blood of newborn babies, and there's over 300 chemicals found in the cord blood of newborn babies. These kids haven't had a chance to eat a yucky diet, or smoke or drink or what have you. So they're getting it from the moms. So yes, children do need to detox. That's kind of a whole nother topic right there. If a child is old enough to swallow capsules, they can do the parasite detox. I have had some people open the capsules and just put the stuff in water, but the texture or the taste may be difficult to get a child to take it. But you can detox with foods. Make sure you're eating organic. Give them the lemon water. Give them these bitter herbs, dandelion tea and things. You could put a little stevia in it and just tell them, you got to drink it. I'm mom, because I said, not in a mean way, but, this is going to help you. This is what we need to do. And so that's kind of where I would look at with that.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, yes, go ahead, Hyacinth, then Sharon and Marcia. If you're not speaking, please keep yourselves muted. Hyacinth, your turn. Okay, we're not hearing her, so we'll go with Sharon and then. Okay, we're hearing you now. Go ahead, Hyacinth.
I asked the question form, so I left my hand.
Okay, perfect. No problem. Thank you. Go ahead, Sharon, and then Marcia.
A pleasant night. Beautiful presentation, and trust me, I learned. But what I was surprised though about when Danna was saying, if you only have one stool per day, but what happens if you only probably have 2 meals, but not a heavy meal? You're expected to still pass 2 meals per day? Because sometimes I think I don't have a full meat. I might have fruits and then not much lunch in the evening. And I have a 1 stool, but I have a stool every day. But she's saying at least we should have at least 2. But I was concerned, based on your intake of your meal, should you still have 2?
Yes. If you study Dr. John Harvey Kellogg's information, he has a book called Colon Hygiene. And I actually read the book. It's like this. And he does indicate, if you eat, you need to eliminate. I was working with this old medical missionary one time, and I've just got to tell you guys this. And she was talking to this man client that had come to her for health counseling. And she said, okay, so how many meals do you eat a day? He said, I eat 3 meals. Well, how many times do you poop? He said, once. She said, where's the other 2?
In his gut.
So, you know, if you eat, you need to eliminate. Now, if you are only eating 1 meal a day and then you have an apple or an orange for lunch or what have you, that may not be
Right.
enough bulk, you know, to actually trigger that. But if you're eating 2 meals per day, you need to have 2 eliminations per day. So
I agree.
Okay,
2
though.
full meals, 2 full elimination. Yes.
that's right.
Okay.
And let me
A lot
tell
of
you
us are around.
if you don't believe me, you go get a
Uh-huh.
colonic. Go get a colonic and you will be a believer.
What's a
So
colonic?
it's where they, and you can do it at home. When I was at Maben Wilson's, he taught us how to do it. They have a board that's a special design. You can look up a Colima board, COLIMA, and you can do this at home. It's where they basically run a large volume of water through your colon. It's going in and it goes up, you know, slowly into the colon and hydrates and everything and breaks up all the stuff. And then it comes back out, and it takes about an hour to do this. And you run like 7 or 8 or 10 gallons of water through your colon in this one setting. I am not kidding. You will wonder where all that stuff has been hiding.
Oh, I think I tried with like warm, and you can use warm lemon water.
That is
Warm
not
water,
going
you
to be
can
the
use warm
same.
water with it.
You can
No,
do
you're
that, and it
putting
will,
you're really putting the water into your colon
Yes.
through
Right.
the other
Yes.
But
end,
you'd have used
right?
it. There's a bag
through the
that is
south end.
there's a okay.
Yes.
All right. Secondly, let me just find out about gallstone. You said gallstone has anything to do with your liver?
Cancer?
No, she
Liver,
says
gallstone.
Oh, gallstones,
Gallstone.
gallstones.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they do. In fact, you can have liver stones. And when you do the liver flush, what it is, see, the liver makes the bile. And when this bile gets thick and sludgy and all the acids and everything mix with that, and that can form stones in the gallbladder. And so it has very much to do with the liver. And so if you don't, you know, I've had so many people who have had their gallbladders removed, and it was totally unnecessary. They could have kept it if they would have been doing these, you know, the proper diet, eating foods that are going to support healthy bile flow, doing the liver flushes, doing the parasite detox. You know, it's all very much connected. Yes.
Thank you
Okay,
very
thank you,
much.
Sharon.
Good.
We'll take the last hand because the time is far spent. Marcia, go ahead, your turn.
And good night, everyone. And Sister Angela, wonderful job. I just want to thank Dana for such a wonderful, informative presentation. I've
Praise the
learned a
Lord.
lot.
Praise the
And I
Lord.
have my notes here, just jotting down everything. Anyway, I just want to find out, when we are drinking these teas like the dandelion and the milk tist and all of that and the berba, whatever it is, how long should you continue this before you feel it's okay to stop? 2 weeks, 10 days, 5 days, or is there a time frame as to where we cut it off?
That's a good question, and it's kind of a difficult one to answer because everyone's body is different. Everyone's health status is different, and so it's hard to answer that. Most of us really need to do something on an ongoing basis to increase our bile flow by eating foods that are going to increase it. We listed some of them: radishes, the bitter greens like arugula, using the lemon water. Another one that a lot of people use that increases bile flow is the coffee enema. That will help if you're not adverse to using that. It also increases glutathione levels in the body by up to, I think it's 700%. And then drinking the dandelion tea several days a week is not going to hurt you anyway. Okay, so it's not something, dandelion is relatively safe. Now, I don't mess with pregnant ladies and breastfeeding ladies, particularly pregnant ladies. So you do your own research on that, and everything that I've shared, I encourage you to do your own research. But care for the liver is something that we, particularly in the society that we live in now, the toxicity that's all around us, we need to be doing something on a daily basis, and especially a weekly basis at least, to support our livers, drinking these herbs and stuff like that. So I don't really view it as something that now I can stop. You know, you remember what Dr. Gittleman said that I quoted earlier, we need 3 livers today. So we only have one, so you better take care of it.
And that those are different. For example, Marcia, if you were taking some herbs for, say, cancer or something else, some specific disease, and you were on herbal medication, herbal medicine, no, herbal remedies for a while, then you could say after you've seen the improvements or you're better, you want to come off those. Some are maintenance. Some herbs are good for maintaining against helping to fight or to heal. So some are maintenance. You can drink these teas for maintenance while you're using some remedies because you're trying to heal or treat a particular situation. Thank you for that. And with that, we're going to close off because I don't see any more hands or questions. And let me check YouTube. I don't think there are any more questions over there either.
Angela?
Right, no. Yes.
I have a quick question.
Okay, make it quick.
Yes, for the colonic, they use coffee. Is that good to use as well because they said it cleans the liver?
Yes, coffee contains, the caffeine contains a substance called palmitic acid, and the palmitic acid triggers the stomach, not the stomach, the liver to produce glutathione, which we talked about a little bit. That's our master antioxidant that just really pulls out the toxins from our body. And then you eliminate it through the colon. It also helps to increase bile flow. So yes, some people do use that in a colonic, but typically that's used in an enema. So either way, you can use it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dana. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, wonderful. Somebody's asking what's the best time to have these teas. I say you can have your teas before your meal or maybe 2 hours after your meal, preferably before, not while you're eating. It's best to have liquid before. If you have stomach issues, just make sure there's a longer gap between, and you can just have it 2 hours after. Okay, so all right, perfect. I thought I saw a hand, but it's not there anymore. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We always appreciate your time, and to the presenter, may God continue to bless and keep you in your ministry and give you the strength and long life as you continue to just allow yourself to be willing to present on these different platforms. It takes a willingness, because so many times we're learned, we have the information, but we don't want to share it. Oh, we're too busy, we don't have the time. But God has called us with this health message to help to prepare our people for his coming, because God doesn't want us to be sick. It doesn't make sense you're getting all the spiritual aspect of it while you're sick. We ought to be healthy Christians, so we're able to go on that mission for him. So thank you again, my sister. And we couldn't just do a closing prayer, and then officially we're closing off the meeting. And as usual, we stay back and we greet and we say hello, and then we close down this platform. Go ahead, my dear sister, and Dana, with a closing prayer.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this privilege to be with my brothers and sisters. I've never met them in person, but I thank you so much for the opportunity to spend this time with them. I pray that you would bless the things that were shared this evening and that they would be beneficial. I thank you for the things that you have helped me to learn, and thank you for giving me the willingness to share. And I just pray that you would help each one of us to be prepared for your soon return, and that you would help each one of us to bring closure to you. In Jesus' name we pray and we thank you. Amen.
Amen. Amen. And just announcing the Daniel's Diet Challenge. It begins on Sunday coming. We have sent out the flyer. Get ready, get ready, get ready. The holiday just went. You may have eaten a lot of gunk and garbage and whatever. It's time to clean your system. We're going to be having our devotion at 5 o'clock in the mornings, between 5 and 6 o'clock, where we provide support. So we do a devotional together, we provide support, we get the testimonies, and we see how we can help anybody with any questions along the journey for the 10 days. It's a 10 days Daniel's Diet Challenge for 10 days. So we go from the 16th to the 25th, all inclusive. If you want to join us, you have to be registered. Send an email. I shared the email address in the chat. It's leaptohealthministry@gmail.com. I also shared the WhatsApp group link in the chat. If you join the WhatsApp group, you must be registered. Otherwise, we are going to be removing you from the group. All right. And for the whole month of May, it's going to be about cancer, cancer, cancer. You'll see the flyer coming out. We meet next week, Tuesday, again, as usual. Let me see what topic we have coming up next week, Tuesday, on my calendar here. Okay, so, next week, Tuesday, we're having, Dr. Nash on colon cancer. For some reason, I thought it was next month. So next week, Tuesday, we're talking. So this week, we just looked at the liver. And next week, we're going to be talking about colon cancer. So join us next week as we talk colon cancer. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. It's your turn. You can unmute yourselves. You can say hello to us. If it was your first time, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please remember, we do this every Tuesday night. Don't wait for a flyer. Don't wait for an invitation. Don't even ask if we're meeting. Yes, we're meeting right here, same time. For those in Jamaica, I noticed Jamaicans are coming on at 8:30 Canadian time, because it's not 7:30 your time. It is 6:30 your time in Jamaica. And I notice you guys are coming in when about 7:30 Jamaican time. So let me correct that error. If you read the flyer properly, you're going to see it's 6:30 in Jamaica, 7:30 for us here in Canada. Well, it depends on where in Canada you are, okay? So Jamaicans, remember, it is 6:30. You got to come on earlier. All right, if you want to unmute and say hello, it's your turn. If not, I'll shut it down. Welcome again, everybody. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you for this lovely presentation. Continue to do a good job.
Amen. Sister Kareem, welcome, my dear sister Kareem. We know each other from CHTLH. Welcome, sis. It's good to have you over here, Sister Kareem. Okay, guys, anybody else want to say hello? My dear friend Dawn, my sister, it's good to have you on.
Great to be here, Sister Angela. I must say to our presenter, I really benefit.
We're hardly hearing you, Dawn, hardly hearing you.
Oh, sorry. I am coming, Sister Angela. I'm taking off my Bluetooth because I was walking, so my phone is still on Bluetooth.
Better?
Okay.
Hearing me better?
Yes, this is better now, yes.
All right, thank you so much. I was walking, so I was using my Bluetooth speaker, but I just wanted to say thank you so much.